Oh, lovely! The graveyard isn't evil anymore. I think.
It just houses dead people.
That's how that works, right? Yeah, totally how it works. I'm happy to go with that. Okay, so we have hit the halfway point of the game now. Which, crazy considering now we're on the top screen, but hey! Time to finally go to a grassy world.
It's about time. That's usually the first world you go into in games.
Especially in Bomberman games. I will say, the aesthetic of the grass world here actually kind of reminds me of the first world in Bomberman 93, or as more people would have played it, Mega Bomberman on the Mega Drive. But, you know. They had the TurboGrafx 16 on the Wii U Virtual Console, and I'm like, I'm gonna get the TurboGrafx 16 version. Because I can.
Yeah, because Wii U actually is like, hey, we're gonna have a unique console in here. TurboGrafx 16. I was like, oh, nobody really buys that many games for that system.
And like, there were a lot of Hudson Soft games that were on the TurboGrafx, and I think I think in terms of my Wii U Virtual Console, I think there's a decent 8 of them that are TurboGrafx 16 games, 3 of which are Bomberman games.
I mean, that makes sense, because there was a lot of Bomberman on TurboGrafx.
And hilariously, one of them is also a Load Runner game that actually, there is a small chance on that Load Runner game, so I think there is a slight chance when you're playing that the enemy robots can actually spawn as Bomberman instead. Load Runner... Battle Load Runner, that's right. Which is hilarious. It's a really nice nod to the NES version that I like. Makes me happy. But yeah, so World 6... He's kicking my butt.
I see that you're 3 lives short.
And yeah, on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that correctly. That is a skunk, and its attack is literally it makes a fart cloud in front of it. Now, hilariously, the fart cloud doesn't extinguish bombs. Because, you know, methane's explosive.
I think gasoline, not gasoline.
It actually chains explosions.
I mean, that was like some logic in the Pokemon anime at one point when Weezing used like smog, and they're like, yeah, use your flame, cause a massive explosion.
Sorry to interject. Is that a skunk walking on its front feet only?
It is indeed.
What in the world?
He's a handstanding boy. Of course, my bombs were in the one place where it wasn't.
The one gap you missed.
Yup.
I thought for a second he was gonna miss that too.
I'll admit, I was half waiting for it to be like, yes, I finally got him in the bomb range, then he drops a fart cloud, then it accidentally hits the exit.
There you go.
They're making the levels wider, they're making them more complicated, and they're really spamming a lot of the trickier enemies now, which is fun. Like, a lot of the enemies we're going to be seeing from this point onwards, I think maximum you get 1 enemy from the first world thrown in there, 2 levels maximum, and then the rest of it usually is either going to be a harder version of an early level enemy, or is just going to be unique to that world. You know, the moles are frustrating because they will dig into the ground and they will show up wherever they feel like it.
Because I feel like it. We're Mr. Resetting this whole game. Wow, I can definitely see how annoying these moles are.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest problem is that it's hard to kind of predict where they're going to go until they're at that corner of the stage.
Pretty much. Like, at least with burrowing kinds of enemies in, say, Mario, they don't re-burrow, so it usually telegraphs where they already are.
Yeah, like I think of like Monty Moles in like Galaxy, where they have a trail that you can just see, so you can easily follow along with the mole and then just ground pound them out.
Heck, even the worms in Croc, same kind of thing.
I haven't played that game. That'd be a good stream game.
Croc is a good stream game, and I think the mentality to go in with it is always first play the game, and from there work out if you want 100% it, because sadly, Croc is one of those games where the 100% reward is... I mean, it depends on the kind of person you are for completion's sake, whether it's a worthwhile reward, because the only reward 100% gets you is 5 extra levels.
I mean, it's still more game. That's better than something like, say, Breath of the Wild, which is more poop.
You got the poop trophy. It's poop. I mean, that's not even a complaint about the quality. That's in the literal sense. So I mean, I like treasure hunts. Again, my backlog for the League playthroughs has Squeak Squad in it.
When it comes to like 100%, like I'm always fine. Like if the reward is just more game, like it doesn't matter how hard it is of a journey to get to that. It still feels rewarding in some sense because you still get to play it. Unlike the other things, like here's a random cosmetic thing, or here's just another collectible you're never gonna use, or just another tally thing like that. Okay, I'm good. I don't need the 100% your game, but this is all I get.
I mean, that's one reason why I like Spiral 1's 100% reward is more just another level.
Yes.
Well, it's not just that, but Spiral 1 reward also gives you a new power that you can technically use for New Game Plus. So you can take it into a new game and just break the rest of your levels.
Are you sure?
What power are you talking about?
Wasn't it like that Super Flame you get in Spiral 1?
That's Power 2. That's Power
okay. Well, I remember one of the games you can take that back into like every other level in a new file. So it's basically New Game Plus.
Yeah.
I think it's Spyro 2 you're thinking of. Yeah, Spyro 2's 100% reward is you get permanent Super Flame.
Which one I seen? It breaks a lot of the trivial puzzles early on.
That's one reason why I like. That's one thing in 100% in games that I do like is if you get such an overpowered thing. Like I heard that Dead Space 2, when you complete the game, you get a finger gun. Like a literal finger, like follow me finger gun that shoots bang, 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 and it's like an instant kill weapon.
That is glorious.
The fact that it's an insta kill, I think, is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I love that. And not only that, like games like Okami, where you basically just get invincibility if you get all the stray beads in the game. I think that's pretty cool.
That and also the karmic transformations are great. Play through the game as the real dog costume at that point, where the original model of Amaterasu, which is supposed to be basically real-life CG dog. And it's just horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrifying, but it's also really funny.
It's interesting because it gives you an insight into the sort of the design process, and then they've gone, no, we're going for calligraphy. And like, here's always been the weird thing for me with Okami HD, is I remember when I first saw Okami HD and I saw the game, the first thing I thought was, it didn't need it. That was the first thing I thought when I saw it. I'm like, the art style was beautiful as it was. I hope by HD you just mean it's on HD consoles, because I legitimately couldn't tell the difference. And that's no...
Well, I think the big thing is more or less, it won't look any different in a lot of ways, but it's just, it'll be cleaner, because, higher resolution and all. Like, fun fact about that, the original HD one on the PS3, they actually render the game in 4K, but because the PS3 can't output that, it downsamples it to 1080p. That's why it looks so good on PS3, because it's technically a 4K game.
Oh, so it's upscaled for the optimal on 2K. That's insane.
Well, it's kind of opposite. It's downsampling it, and if you work in like film stuff, you know that if you take a high quality thing and downsample it to a lower thing, it makes it look cleaner and sharper. And that was the mentality they had originally making Okami HD. You don't really notice that all that much with the newer HD versions because they're in 4K. You can play in 4K.
And then you just got...
So that trick kind of doesn't feel the same anymore.
And then you just got me, who was looking for a PS2 copy of Okami for ages, and I'm like, I went to all this effort.
Also, you're talking to me, you're like, oh yeah, I can do 4K easily now, but let me just get a different 1080p screen that can go higher refresh rate. I gotta go faster, not cleaner.
We must go higher.
I'm a weird guy who's using a 32-inch 1080p monitor. A lot of people would say, why? Why? Get 1440 at that point. Nah, man. It go fast. That's why. Price of monitors have gone down a lot over the years. This makes more sense.
Yeah.
You can get a high refresh rate 1080p monitor for the same price as like a 4K 60 hertz display. So, no, nah, just go with the high refresh 1080. It'd be a better experience.
It's a tricky example because I don't think last year was the best example of, getting a monitor in general. That was hard for a lot of people, sadly.
What are you talking about, man? I mean, you can win the lottery today on Newegg to have a chance to buy your graphics card.
Okay, I see what
And then
you're
realize it costs way too much because they inflated the prices.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Newegg is kind of a garbage site.
Yeah, it's been getting worse. They're good if they don't jack up the prices.
That's very wishful thinking there.
Yeah, this is true. I kicked myself because when I built my computer at the time, I got a free game for my i9 CPU, but the free game was Marvel Avengers, and then like a month later it was Crisis Remastered. Like, man, I would have played that instead of Marvel.
It's optimized to not set newer computers on fire. Why wouldn't you want it?
Can it run Crisis?
Can it run Crisis?
I love how the best graphics setting mode in Crisis Remastered is just called Can It Run Crisis mode.
Like, that's...
They knew.
That is honor. Well, thank goodness I had the fire shield on.
Wow. Yeah, you're lucky you didn't get
That would have ended poorly if you didn't.
Like, gotta love how I used the dangerous bomb, and immediately the first one I used for the level killed me. Nearly. You gotta... I love how you look at it and just like you can see the wheels turning. It's past me, what are you doing?
You just see a loading bar, and then it hits 100%, and you're like, I made a terrible mistake.
Oh yeah, literally, this is the aspect of my thought process when I look back on my raw footage, is that people call, yes, when Marley was buffering.
I mean, it's better than my raw footage. I keep on watching, it's like, okay, how much do I get out of this? 1 hour. How long was the recording session again? 3? Okay, what was I doing for the other 2 hours that I'm not including?
Oh, well, I mean, if it was me playing Animal Crossing, it was me falling asleep, because unfortunately it's too relaxing for me. I've had that conversation with like 20 people now. They're like, do you have Animal Crossing? I'm like, I love Animal Crossing, but I can't play it. And they're like, it's not the kind of game for you? And I'm like, it's too relaxing.
I can agree with you.
And they're like, what do you mean too relaxing? I'm like, I've got 5 hours of game time recorded on my 3DS, and they're like, that's not much. I'm like, I only consciously played for 2. They're like, then what were you doing for... Were you asleep for the other 3? And I'm like, yes.
I can kind of agree with you on that, but that's not fair because I have sleep problems anyway, so...
Well, I mean, in that point, I would definitely prescribe you, an Animal Crossing a day keeps the sleep the right way.
Yeah, I do play it. Dude, I put in 480 hours in Animal Crossing New Horizons already, so... Yeah, I play a lot of Animal Crossing. I love Animal Crossing.
I tried really hard to get into New Leaf as much as all of my friends were. The biggest problem was, I think... Every time I was playing it, it was also a time when my body just needed horrendously to relax, and the amount of stress relief it gave me literally knocked me unconscious.
Yeah, it's
I tried really hard to do the same with gauge whether I was going to get New Horizons when it came to Switch. You know what, I'll play some New Leaf again and we'll see how that goes, and it just did the same thing to me again, and at that point I wasn't even as stressed. It just chills me way too much. It shuts my body off, and I love it.
Well, maybe you should just get the game just for insomnia problems.
I'm no therapist. I'm no sleep therapist. I can't pretend to know. insomnia is yet to be a problem that is on my radar. It could become one. It's not one yet. But I know, but I know we live in a world where Animal Crossing is my easiest solution. Now, some might call that cheating.
It's definitely not a tagline Nintendo wants any reviewer to put on the back of the box. So good, it put me to sleep.
I mean, to be fair, literally the first Isabelle and Tom Nook dancing meme that I posted on Twitter, no, technically the second, you can say what you want, but it's basically therapy. It came out at exactly the time when the world needed it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Especially last year. I was gonna say, like, that's why I really wanted that game to win kind of game of the year, because let's be honest, Animal Crossing New Horizons came out at the perfect time.
Yeah, what's funny is I don't think they planned that originally, because they delayed the game at one point because they just didn't think they were going to get out in the 2020, like the 2019 timetable they were looking for, so that's why they pushed it to 2020. And then the whole world caught on fire, basically. And yeah, it actually worked out to delay the game without them knowing it.
New Horizons gave a lot of people who didn't have a means to actually do social and physical interaction outdoors a means to keep the ball rolling, be it not only in a social but also to some people in a business capacity as well. Like, yeah. I know a couple of people who literally work at the Australian Museum, and because of the fact that we were going into stage 4 restrictions, they actually correlated the layout of the Australian Museum to exhibits that exist in Animal Crossing and did a virtual tour.
That's pretty cool.
And it was beautiful, and I'm like, this game is wonderful. By the way, whenever this goes up, I'm going to put a link to that in the description, because literally I was beaming about it for a whole week when that video came out. I'm like, this game!
Yeah, I've seen even a lot of late night talk shows at one point. Like, some of them kind of moved over to Animal Crossing for a bit too. Like, I know there was at least one show that did that.
Exactly. Like, and I'm like, that's pure. Now, here is the unfortunate point where Bomberman DS does start to rely on its laurels. The biggest problem with the second half of Bomberman DS is that this boss might look awfully familiar.
That's because it is, isn't it?
It is basically World 1's boss, but hard mode.
So it's after a certain point they just start reusing bosses.
Yeah, so this is what I like to call the Kirby Mass Attack / Sonic Colors / what's another example? Like the, second half of the game uses first half of the game's bosses but harder. And like the sad thing is, in all those examples I just used, Sonic Colors has no excuse. Honestly, they should have just had both sets of bosses across both versions.
Yeah, it would have helped with the little redundancy issues.